So maybe you can just give a quick intro about yourself before we start.
Yeah. So actually, I've been doing sports and fitness for quite a long time now, but I didn't really know what I was actually doing. So I just follow people or follow things on the internet without really knowing the whys and the hows. Then only in like 2017 when I started working, um, like I was putting a lot more weight and I realized something's wrong. And then if you saw my Insta post, actually the story behind it was my colleague was actually told me that, hey, I didn't expect you to have a tummy. So I got a bit triggered and I'm like, okay, I really got to do something before it gets worse. So I went to do a lot more research and really think about it and and trust science lah more than anything else, like evidence based. So after 7 months, I got to where I wanted, and I realized it was my passion, and I really enjoyed it, especially as I start to help people and people get where they wanted also lah, and they trusted me, and this is where I am now lor. So and then in July last year, I also wanted to challenge myself. I'm like, I've been doing this for so long, might as well just put more effort and try to achieve something greater. So I joined a physics competition and like learned a lot more about myself, and affirmed me more that okay, this is what I'm gonna do. And yeah lah, so this is where I got lah so far.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you want to check out his story, he actually posted that like, was it 1 or 2 days back? I actually read the whole thing and I wanted to repost on my IG about what you just mentioned. Yeah, that's the story behind it. And for those that don't know, me and Kasi used to be in the same JC, and he was in the class next to mine. So whenever I stood in my class for like school assembly, I thought, okay, I'm the tallest. Then I looked to my left. I think it was my left. Then wow, this guy just saying
Oh yeah, you were in front of me. I didn't
Yeah.
realize. Yeah.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about how to build muscle at home, and just to talk about why it's maybe misunderstood, and a lot of people spend and waste a lot of time doing the wrong things, right? So we want to make sure that you have the tools to make it effective when it comes to muscle building. And before we get into that, we must know how muscle grows. And we're going to keep it as non-technical as possible. Okay, so muscle building is an adaptive response to external forces. So this external force, or what we simply know as weight training. All right, there's many types of training, but let's talk about weight training using dumbbells, using barbells, using machines. So your muscle tissues, they actually experience what's known as mechanical tension. And your muscles are made out of muscle fibers. So the muscle fibers have to produce force to manage this tension that is getting from weights. Now, the muscle itself needs a control center, and that control center is your brain. So there's receptors inside your muscle which link to the brain, which sends a signal to the brain, and then the brain says, okay, hey, well, I need to lift this weight, so I actually need to build muscle. Okay, that's very simple, but that doesn't make up the whole thing. And what I mentioned in my fat loss IG live with Coach Boone is that it can only occur if you have hit your basic nutrition needs. And if you go and look at Kati's profile, he actually provides tips on nutrition, what you should make sure you take in, what you should avoid, or also what you should, if you want to enjoy something like alcohol, how does that affect you in terms of muscle building, and how does that affect you in terms of nutrition. And you find that it's not too bad as long as you control the amount, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I add one thing also. So like when you add resistance to your body, actually there are micro traumas or micro tears to your muscle. So what happens is your body actually tries to remodel it by using protein to make it stronger. So it's very important that we actually constantly apply resistance to your body. So it's not just doing the same thing over and over again that will cause your muscle to be tearing. As a muscle tears, it recovers, gets stronger. So you'll need to put more and more resistance in order to build more muscle. And this also happens when you're resting or when you're sleeping. So that's why sleep is actually very important, and it's actually quite underemphasized in the fitness industry.
And that is a broad topic on its own and comes with its own instruction manual. But today we're going to focus on how to actually build muscle, because even that can be maybe not so common knowledge for those that are watching now. So again, if you want to ask any questions, feel free to pop them down at the question mark icon below, or you can even leave in your comments and we will answer them during this entire session.
Yeah.
You can actually see the comments as they come, right?
Yeah. Hi, Sheng. Hi, Erling. Yeah.
Okay, so now we are going to talk about the pros and cons to home workouts, because right now we're limited to just training at home. So maybe you take it from here.
So I think there are a lot of advantages and as well as disadvantages, but I mean, in this time of COVID, we're definitely stuck at home, so we can't go to the gym. But I want to also say that even after COVID ends, when the gyms are open, we can easily rely on home workouts because of various advantages. So the first one is obviously if you go to the gym, you need to pay for a membership, and some memberships can actually be quite expensive, especially the bigger gyms. Or having a personal trainer is also expensive. But staying at home is absolutely free. And moving on to the next point, it's also very convenient. You can do it anywhere in your house, or maybe in a park. I mean, not for now, but if you want, you can go in a park when everything's over. And there are no excuses. You cannot say like, oh, it's raining, or I don't have a car, or I don't have a transport to get to the gym. At home, you do it when and where you are. And you can play your favorite music. You don't need to follow the gym's music. Sometimes you don't like it. You like rock or heavy metal or whatever. You just plug in your earpiece and get in the zone and do whatever you want. And you can do it anytime. I mean, in the gym, sometimes they're closing hours at 10 p.m. They ask you to, but at home, you can do it at 12 a.m. After supper, or maybe even 5 a.m. in the morning when gyms are still closed. Yeah. So the next thing is also you save a lot of time traveling. Sometimes you may take one hour to travel to the gym, or maybe half an hour there and half an hour back. It's 1 hour, but at home you just start whenever you want, and you don't need to wait for equipment. I mean, if their squat racks are limited, sometimes you wait like for 20 minutes, and I mean it's very inefficient. But at home, you start whenever you want. The whole space is yours. Another thing is that home workouts actually focus a lot on fundamental and compound movements. For example, like the squat or the push-up. Compound movements are actually movements that target more muscles at a go. You can a squat targets your whole posterior chain, your glutes, your hips, your hamstrings, a little bit of your hamstrings, so on. And it's also, I mean, if you put less weight on your body, it's also slightly safer for your joints compared to putting like 50 kg doing a squat or deadlift. But if you do it the right way, it's still safe. But I'm talking about relative wise, it may be less safe. Right. So moving on to things that are not so good about home workouts compared to the gym. You train alone. So I mean, sometimes there's less motivation, especially for me. I like to train with people. Like it's more motivation to challenge each other. But I guess it works both ways. Some people are antisocial. They like to work out on their own. So, I mean, that's good lah for them. And also at home, there's definitely less equipment. You have to, but that's not, you are slightly limited by that. But I mean, you can get creative. Like there are some workouts on my Instagram that you can see. You can use bands. You can use pails, towels. There are so many things at home you can do. So you shouldn't be limited by that. But of course, if you're at a gym, I mean, you have machines and everything, it's definitely relatively easier. And the next point is, if you are slightly more advanced, you have more muscle, it's actually more difficult to, you need more reps to actually build muscle. So because to build muscle, you need to actually provide sufficient resistance on your muscles. And sometimes more intermediate lifters, actually you do like 5, 10, 20 push-ups, may mean nothing, or it may not very challenging to you, so you may have to go up to like 50 reps, which can be not very comfortable for some people. And also for your posterior chain, which is your legs, your glutes, your hamstrings, these muscles are relatively stronger compared to your upper body. Because, I mean, usually you walk, I mean, you're supporting your whole body weight. So at home, it's relatively difficult to challenge those muscles compared to the upper body. Like upper body, you can do different variations of push-ups, dips, and everything. But for a lower body, sometimes squats is not sufficient. You need to put really much more resistance on your posterior chain. And another point is also it's a bit harder to quantify progressions, because at the gym it's very easy to know how you progress. Like at another 2.5 kg, 5 kg, 10 kg, you know that you're progressing. But at home, sometimes you have to only rely on number of reps or number of sets, which is a little bit more difficult, a little bit more harder to quantify. And lastly, it's hard to isolate certain groups of muscle. For example, if your biceps are very strong, very small, but you only want to target your biceps, it's difficult at home to only do that compared to the gym where you have a bicep machine or tricep machine and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's my sum of pros and cons. So I wouldn't recommend one over the other. It's just depending on your needs. And yeah, that's about
Yeah. And I think the circumstance itself, well, at least in Singapore, I mean, some of the viewers may not be from Singapore, but at least for Singapore, when the gyms do open up, right, there will be a limited amount of people that can actually go in at one time. So I think we just need to be a lot more forward thinking that even if gyms, they do say that they're open, you might as well try and do the home workouts now. Try different variety, and if you don't know where to look, I mean, either one of us can actually provide content for that. And like what Kati said, there's a lot of different. There are limitations too. So we are definitely very honest that bodyweight training has its limitations, right? But we are here to hopefully give some tips on how it can be made a little bit easier, some techniques, so that you can actually feel like you're working the muscle, or feel like actually see results from doing that. Yeah. Okay. You want to answer this question?
What's the question? Oh, share views on HIIT versus running for losing fat. It's my friend Nerling. Thanks for your question. So, running, I guess running, we would define it as steady state cardio, like constant state of running, like not sprinting at all, slow jogging for say 30 minutes. And HIIT, I guess, compare with the same time frame, so 30 minutes. So to me, I always like to recommend HIIT over running. Actually, to me, I don't feel that cardio is necessary, but if you want to use cardio as a tool to help yourself lose weight, I would recommend HIIT because of this phenomenon called EPOC, which is excess post-oxygen consumption, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yep.
So basically, your body actually continues to burn a lot of energy even after the workout, and it can last for quite some time. So it's actually, I would say it's more efficient and probably burns more calories per minute compared to running. So that's an advantage of HIIT. But of course, HIIT sometimes, because it's very intense, doing it too frequently might not be very healthy for your joints. So I would also try to limit the number of times you do it, maybe 3 to 4 times a week. And you can always do both. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, so I've actually addressed HIIT a number of times already in other places, but also something to take note is that HIIT is different for different individuals, meaning a beginner versus like Kati, for example. So Kati would need to raise his heart rate up to maybe 180 to 210 in order for him to feel like he's actually doing HIIT, and in order for him to actually get that that calorie burn on the intensity that he wants. Whereas someone who is a beginner, HIIT can be somewhere between just 130 to 150 beats per minute, right? Just because there is a standard out there for like oh, you must hit this heart rate in order to be considered high intensity. I mean, if you've never been there before and you suddenly jump from your resting heart rate all the way to 210, chances are you're probably going to be wiped out, and then the rest of the day you're probably just going to be lying in bed, or the risk of injury or something happening to you is there. So just take note, when you're doing HIIT, there is a definition for it, and there's obviously targets to hit, but just know that those numerics do not always apply to you. It really depends on your conditioning level. Okay. No other questions right now? All right. So maybe I will start off with techniques. Okay. I don't know what Kasi has prepared. We don't know what each other has prepared, so we'll just see how this goes. But the first technique I would just recommend for those that perhaps want to not have to do even more reps in order to progress, right? And want something that is more compact. It's something called rest pause. Okay, so when you're doing, let's say, a bicep curl of 12 reps, a set of bicep curl, okay, and you're doing 12 reps, how many reps during that set actually were tough? If out of those 12 reps, none were tough, then you're really not doing so much for stimulating muscle growth. If maybe the last 3 were intense for you, then actually the actual reps that helped stimulate the muscle growth may just be 3. So you want to actually be able to do more of this stimulating reps. So what do you do? So let's say you take a weight that you can do for 12 reps for your biceps, whether it's dumbbell or resistance band, and you do 12 reps, okay? So maybe the last 3 were very tough. Hold on to that dumbbell, rest for about 10 seconds, and then go again, do an extra 5 reps. So that 10 seconds rest can actually help you or your nervous system to recover a little bit and give you the extra energy for the next 5 reps. But now you know that you've done 3 plus 5 hard reps. Okay, you rest again 10 seconds, and then maybe you can squeeze out another 3 or 4. So instead of doing 3 sets of 10 reps on bicep curl, you could probably just do 1 or 2 long sets and get that same effect. Yeah, so that is one technique that you can use, rest pause, where you're just allowing yourself to take the set closer to failure, and those reps are actually going to be more effective for muscle growth.
Yeah, that's definitely one way. For me, I think it's a bit related to rest pause. So it's so for reps that are the last 3 reps that you're actually struggling or feel like you need more resistance, there's actually this movement called eccentric or isometric. So eccentric is the movement where you are lowering the weight. So be it a squat which you are lowering yourself, or push-up where you're lowering yourself. That's an eccentric movement compared to a concentric movement where you are going up from a squat or going up from a push-up. So you want to slow down the eccentric movement of the exercise. So for example, you are doing 20 reps of push-ups. So the last 3 reps, do a 4-second lowering of the push-up instead of just lowering quickly. So in this way, you're really providing a lot of resistance on your muscle, creating tears on the muscle, which will help you build muscle as well. Another related thing is also an isometric. Isometric is in the middle, I would say it's in the middle of a concentric and an eccentric, which is holding there, not moving. So, but you want to do it at the middle of the movement. So for example, for a push-up, isometric is at the halfway point of going up to the top of the movement and the bottom of the movement. So maybe you can hold there for 3 to 4 seconds before going down, and then go up again, and then halfway down, hold there for another 3 to 4 seconds, and then go down. That's one way to challenge your muscle, and actually something you can do for any exercise. You don't need any extra equipment or anything else. Yeah.
And Haji made a point about he talked about micro trauma earlier on and how the muscle fibers actually get damaged. Okay, So this is not a bad thing. You actually want to damage the muscle, but then in order for you to actually build on more muscle is by providing it with the providing your body with the raw materials for you to actually build it. So it comes in the form of protein, it comes in the form of calories as well. So just know that being in a caloric surplus, that means you're eating more than you actually need, right? So that you are maybe gaining weight in theory. So you're more likely to actually build muscle being in a caloric surplus, because now you know that your body is getting enough raw materials to actually build muscle. So it goes hand in hand. Today we may just be talking about muscle building techniques, but it definitely goes hand in hand. Yep.
All right.
Okay, I have another technique I want to talk about, and since I have a lot of space, I'm gonna quickly grab something. You can just entertain them for a while.
Hi, Eugene. Any questions, you can just type it up and we'll try to answer you whenever we can. Like, yeah, Sean has a comment like wound healing is regenerated thicker. Yeah, I guess there's a analogy that you can use, but yeah, it gets thicker, slowly gets thicker over time, and then I mean it's a good analogy. So you have to actually apply even more resistance to break that skin, right? So that's why you have to increase the number of sets, number of reps, or do specific techniques to sufficiently challenge your muscle. Yeah, I can go ahead, JJ.
Okay. All right. So, Kasi, you just led me on to the next part. Since we talked about concentric, eccentric, and isometric. So isometric is, imagine you're doing a plank, so you're just holding, right? You're not moving, you're just staying still. Maybe there's some tension in your abdominal muscles that prevent you from falling down, or prevent you from arching your back. So what I'm going to talk about is isometronic. So isometronic is, if you are doing a plank, you're actually actively trying to pull your elbows down, and you're actively trying to pull your toes up. So you're forming like this sort of crunch movement, and you're putting a lot of it just trying to tense up your body. So it's different from an isometric. So what does this help with, right? I have a towel here, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do lateral raise, right? So my side delt. So when I actually do an isometronic, I will stand on the towel, and I'll try and lift it up to the side. So from here, you can see that I can't actually move the towel, it's immovable, but I'm trying to generate as much force by lifting up this towel. And here I can feel my side delt get activated a lot. So what this does is you do it for 30 seconds and you give your maximal effort trying to actually lift that towel. This will stimulate high threshold motor units. Now, simply put, these high threshold motor units are just nerve cells in the brain that control a large amount of muscle fiber in your body. So for this example, we're talking about the side delt. Now, in order to actually simulate, you would need to create a lot of effort, all right? So in 30 seconds, I mean, I'm not doing it now, but I would crunch my face, I would really try and tear this towel apart. Then from there, I would go into a lateral raise. So after the 30 seconds, my muscle is actually fatigued, and I would start doing lateral raises. And I would just do them to failure. So from here, by now your muscles are so fatigued that you're actually doing really hard reps. And going back to my first point about how many actual reps are you doing to simulate growth, right? So you can easily just do 1 or 2 sets for each body part. You could do it for your legs, you could do it for your bum, you could do it for your back, right? You just have to be creative and play around with the towel.
Yeah.
And Kati's got a few towel exercises. I know that he has a back one on his Instagram. Yeah, So that's one technique you can use.
Yeah. Thanks for helping me advertise. I think Sean has a comment for you.
Are you referring to mind-muscle connection? During that movement, no, I'm not referring to mind-muscle connection for that. In terms of when I was lifting the towel, I got to make sure that I do feel it in my side delt. So I would want to find the correct positions where I'm actually activating the muscle I'm trying to work. Right? If I were to hold the towel like here, okay, I'm not going to feel so much side delt. I may feel more front delt. Or if I was to hold the towel here, I may feel more rear delt or back muscle. So you would then just need to know where to actually carry or use that towel. Yeah, mind muscle connection is a little bit different, but it definitely is important when you're building muscle.
Yeah. Maybe another technique, or not really counted as a technique lah, but a method to actually challenge your muscle, maybe when you do not have sufficient resistance at home, is unilateral exercises. So instead of doing a squat with 2 legs, you squat with 1 leg. But I mean, not saying to do a pistol squat. Maybe you can put 1 leg on the chair and do a Bulgarian split squat, or put 1 leg in front and do a single leg split squat. For push-ups, maybe if push-ups are too easy for you, you can put 1 hand on chair and do a one-handed push-up, or put 1 leg on the chair and do one-legged push-up. There are many ways to sufficiently challenge your muscle through unilateral exercises. Yeah. And of course, you can look at my IG for a lot more ideas to challenge your muscle if you don't have dumbbells or anything at home.
Yeah. And you've done Zoom workouts before, right? Where it's minimal equipment or no equipment?
Yeah, no equipment at all. So I mean, you can look at some of the videos I posted. A lot of ideas there.
Yeah. And I mean, this isn't a cheap plug. We're just like actually trying to provide like different ideas when it comes to training. And I think it's very convenient what you do for people. That means they can just go on Instagram, press play, and just follow along, right? And then they can just step out if they want to or if not. Yeah. So I think it's
like a free personal trainer. You just, instead of having someone there to tell you what to do, just follow. It's super easy.
Okay, do you use resistance bands? You got a question about resistance bands.
Yeah, fine too, right? Yeah, of course, resistance bands are great. They are cheap, convenient, and everything. But I think one point about resistance band, I mean, a downside of it is that the bottom of the movement usually releases the tension, so it's not a constant tension throughout. Unlike maybe a barbell or a dumbbell, depending on how you use it, or cable. So that's something not so good about it. But of course, it can be overcome by using isometric or slowing of eccentric movement, like holding the cable at the top of the movement and then slowly releasing it, slowly lifting it up. And then when you don't want to release tension off the resistance band at all. Yeah, that's one way you can cope.
Yeah. And okay, I didn't pick this room just because all the stuff is here. I don't really have much stuff. I just have 1 dumbbell and like my dad's resistance band. But it's a good question. So this is talking about strength curve, right? Meaning like where is the hardest part of the movement, where is the easiest part of the movement. So okay, this is not very stable. This is a closed rack, by the way. But if I were to do a back exercise, right, there's right now very little tension on the band, or if not at all. But if I were to pull this way, okay, I'm not going to pull it from the back, if not I'll snap the thing. If I were to pull this way, the band tension actually gets a lot harder. And when your back muscles here, right, in this position, that's actually where it's the weakest. It's the strongest when your arms are straight, but when you pull back, it's actually the weakest. So you already can see a mismatch there. Where the bend is the toughest, is actually where you're weakest at, right? So again, you got to know how the muscles work, and just kind of be creative, or you can actually find out from us what is the best exercise to do for different muscle groups. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm saying you don't want it to be at like the hardest point, because then how many reps are you going to do? Probably like 5 only, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. And
My muscle connection, was it Sean that mentioned it just now? He did, right? Yeah, I think that's also very important. Like, if you're not feeling the muscle that you want to work, then you're not going to grow muscle. All right, it's called activation. You need to be able to activate the muscle. And I think like one classic example where people don't feel the muscle working is the push-up. Okay, so maybe they got their hands too wide, or like they don't know where to put their hands, and they think like the wider they go, the more chest they'll hit. I mean,
yeah.
in some ways you could feel more chest, but it's more of when it comes inwards, then that's when your chest actually contracts more. So just knowing these things, playing around with movement, making sure like whenever you do an exercise, you feel it. Yeah. And when you will tend to go wrong if you're doing HIIT. Like let's say you're doing HIIT high intensity, right? You're not really going to pay so much attention to the muscle you're working. You're going to feel that burn throughout the entire body. So if your goal is really muscle building, have a mixture of both.
So the question is, does that also depend on the type of movement are you going for? Mind-muscle connection. I guess isolation exercises definitely is easier to build a mind-muscle connection compared to a compound movement, simply because you target more muscles during your compound movement. So, I mean, it's harder to concentrate on where the exercise is actually targeting compared to a isolation movement where you're just doing one specific muscle, like a front raise, targeting your front delt, and versus like a squat, you're targeting so many muscles. So I mean, you definitely feel a lot of your quads, but I mean, there's a lot more muscles that you're targeting. It's harder to build a mind-muscle connection in that case.
Yeah, you should focus more on like weight and technique, like how you're lifting it. Because if you're lifting efficiently, then you can lift heavier. Then when you lift heavier, there's going to be more stimulation.
So I think something important is that we should know what the pyramid training is. So, for example, I would say mind-muscle connection is like one of the not so important part of the pyramid. The more important part of the pyramid is like consistency, volume, progression, fundamental things that we should focus on when we build muscle, not things like what time should I work out, and how much should I rest. All these are less important things compared to progression and volume. Yeah.
Do you stretch?
A lot after the workout. Personal experience, I don't really stretch a lot after the workout, but I do stretch before the workout, more like actually warming up the muscle, not really stretching as in increasing the length of the muscle, but warming up the muscle, like doing slow jogs and stuff. So this is just to prevent injury. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, you're right. So at the beginning of the workout, if your core temperature, your body temperature is very low, then you're just getting it warm up, getting blood flow. So I know I've seen your live workouts where you'll do maybe like jumping jacks, and then maybe some high kicks or maybe burpee or something like that, right? Just to get the whole body increasing its temperature. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Also, if I were to do like a squat as my first movement, then I will just practice the squat also. I mean, if I'm doing the squat with a heavy weight, then I'll just start with my body weight squat, right? Because if you stretch, the stretch is not going to transfer over to the exercise you're doing most of the time. Okay, keep the questions coming. like questions. We're done with our main part. Do you have any more things to add, Kati, about muscle building?
I thought we would like to talk about what's important and what's not important for muscle building, right? So actually, I thought some few things that are important. Like actually, I mentioned earlier the pyramid. So volume and progression, and you also mentioned about protein intake, because protein, the only macronutrient that builds muscle. I mean, carbs fuels it, but protein's the one that builds it. And I also mentioned about rest. Rest is where your muscle recovers and sort of builds after it experiences a micro trauma. So if you don't rest enough, your muscle is not going to recover enough, and you're not going to be muscle as that. Yeah. Do you have anything to add? That's what's important.
So you talked about volume, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely volume in the workout itself. Okay, there's also frequency, so the number of times you actually exercise per week. So if you do want to build muscle, you got to make sure that you hit like the muscle group at least a couple of times, 2 to 3 times if you want the number. It is often very overlooked. And also, if you're a beginner, frequency maybe doesn't help so much in terms of muscle building, but it helps in terms of skill. So acquiring the skill of doing the movement. For example, if you just started off doing like 10, okay, let's use an exercise that we have not used yet. Hip thrust, 10 hip thrust. Okay, for ladies out there, 10 hip thrust. You can't expect to build muscle just like that, and you can't expect to actually get proficient at the movement straight away. It takes maybe couple hundreds of reps, learning how to push off the proper part of your feet, learning how to tilt your pelvis, learning how to tuck your chin, learning how to squeeze and actually feel the muscle. So the more times you actually do and perform the exercise, the more quality reps you'll get out of it. And like I said, you don't want to waste your time just doing reps where you're using a lot of momentum or whatever. It's so important that when you do the movement, it's with a good amount of technique. You don't need to be a perfectionist because, again, everyone is a little bit different in terms of maybe like feet placement. So some are straight, some are wide. Maybe some people just have that better mind-muscle connection.
Yeah.
So don't chase perfection, but it's definitely good to keep getting more proficient at it. Yeah.
I think something very important that people should know also is that when you do an exercise, you need to do it close to failure, especially at home. So you cannot do an exercise, like for example, you do 20 push-ups and then you don't feel that you're tired, or you don't feel that sufficient resistance is put on your muscle at all. That's not going to build a muscle. That's not going to tear your muscle. There's nothing to recover. So you will want to always make sure that there is resistance until I feel like, I can't do, I only can do like 2 to 3 more reps and then you can stop. That should be the amount of volume you do. Yeah. And you should always try to beat or at least par with your previous workout, so you know that you are progressing.
Yeah. And that's a good point. If it's hard to I don't know, maybe for some people they feel very pressured to try and perform better than the next workout. So instead of looking at just like workout by workout, maybe look by week by week. So this week I did like 100 reps of a certain exercise. Maybe next week you do 110. So that itself is also another way of progression. It doesn't have to be. It shouldn't feel like a test, basically.
Okay, maybe you can take the first the question on food, and I'll take the one on cardio.
Oh, okay. I take the food one. What's the recommended messages on food for cutting phase? Okay. Percentages. All right, I think it would be easier for, okay, I'm making excuses, but I think it would be easier not to do it by percentages, but by calories instead. Okay, so I'll take a stab at this. For cutting, you just need to be in a caloric deficit. So you just need to eat, maybe start off with 100 or 200 calories less than your maintenance. Do it for 2, 3, even 4 weeks. If you're losing weight, that's good. If you're not, then you reduce maybe another 100 calories. Okay, so the first thing I'll say here is that your maintenance calories, there is a range. It's not just like one fixed number. It's not like the moment you eat one less calorie, then you're in a calorie deficit. It could be that your range is 1,008 to 2,000. So if you were at 2,000 and you drop to 1,008 and you're still not losing, you're probably still at your maintenance range. Okay. Now, in terms of macros, keep your protein based on your body weight. So I would say 1.6 gram per kg of body weight for your protein. Okay, you can go higher if you prefer to eat more protein, but at least minimally 1.6 gram per kg. Fats wise, okay, I would keep it at, okay, percentage wise, I'll keep it at like 10-15%. And then the rest would be carbs. Simple as that. So you just need to hit your protein. You just need to have enough fats for hormone function, and then the rest should go to carbs. And if you feel bloated from eating so much carbs, then you need to think about maybe the choice of carbs that you have, and also having them, finding the preferred time for you to actually have them. So maybe you want to have them more closer to your workout or around your workout, so that you feel like you use the carbs or something, because that can play on your mind, right? Yeah. One more thing I wanted to add was that, oh man, give me a sec. Carbohydrates. Yeah, for carbohydrates, okay. So on your rest days, you may actually feel like you are hungrier or you can eat more. But this is a good thing. You should actually not be scared of eating more calories on your rest days, because you're not training hard on that day. So there's actually more blood flow and your body is less stressed. So your digestion will work a little bit better. Yeah, and that tends to happen a lot when you're cutting. Okay, sorry for that brain fart. Yeah.
Okay, man. We all have those times. Yeah, so, okay, maybe I'll go on to Lester's question. Coma Les. Do you need a lot of cardio to burn off the fats for the bottom 2 abs to shape up, or just keep working on it? So, actually, incidentally, I've been looking at spot reduction of fat, because of the research over the years actually proved that spot reduction of fat is not possible. You cannot purposely do more ab exercise to target your ab muscles. You cannot do more leg exercise to target your thigh fats. But actually, there was this study in 2016 by Eric Helms. I don't know if you know Eric Helms. He actually did a test on lower body and upper body split. So the upper body, right, he made sure that the sample size did not do any upper body exercise, but they did lower body exercise. And they compared it with a control study, and they realized actually it is possible for spot reduction of lower versus upper body. But that was just a very small sample size. So I wouldn't say that the study is conclusive at all. So the recommendation is still, at the moment, you shouldn't try to specifically do spot reduction, like do ab exercise just to target your abs, but rather to eat in a caloric deficit, to eat high protein, to have sufficient rest, to keep progressing. And that's how you will slowly shred off all your fats. Of course, you still need to do ab exercises, because you want to build bigger abs, more defined abs. So keep doing the exercises, but also remember the fundamentals, which is caloric deficit and progression and rest. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And for lower abs, right, if you do want to target that and ignore that advice, right, about just keep working on it, people tend to actually put a lot of emphasis on crunches, right? So actually this way, so there's already a lot of emphasis on your upper and middle abs. So they're probably going to be more developed. That's why your lower abs look smaller or less defined. So you just need to actually do exercises that target the lower abs, right? And one of them, very simply, is leg raises, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, or any raise type movements like reverse crunch or hanging leg raise. I mean, you have a bar. Yeah, you can do a leg raise movement type exercise versus a crunch type movement, which is to target your upper abs. Yeah.
Okay, I think the next question is about the engaging core during ab exercises, right? Is
Yeah.
that the one?
Yeah. Fluffy Cloudy.
So does that mean you have to show your abs while demonstrating? Okay, you wanna answer this?
How to engage your core. So I guess engaging a specific type of muscle has like what JJ mentioned is a lot of mind muscle connection. But another thing is also to make sure the form is right. Like you can do like in one of my videos, actually I showed the wrong way of doing a crunch, which is to pull your neck up instead of doing a proper crunch with minimal contact with your head. So if you just keep doing this and pull your whole head up, you're not going to engage your core at all, right? But if you constantly think that make sure that my form is right, I mean, you can look at some videos, whatever on the internet or anything on the right form. That's how you actually know that you're doing the right way, and then you can engage your core better, lah. Yeah.
A good place to look is just search YouTube, search for hollow body freestyle connection. Okay, and then you will. It's a very basic, easy to understand about what a hollow body is. So a hollow body is just making sure that your core is engaged, and you can just transfer that to any movement that you do. Okay.
BMI.
Yeah.
You want to take a stab at that?
Yes. Simple answer, no. To me, it doesn't matter for general population. I think it matters in some other health, like a population that has issues with health. But BMI, no. I would focus more on body fat percentage. I would focus more on weight, muscle mass. Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
To me, it can be an indicator, but it shouldn't be the defining factor. It's just like indicator, like how your BMI moves. You can sort of get some data from that, but all it is data. It's not defining you as being fat or anything at all. I mean, my BMI is like more than 25. So does that mean I'm overweight?
Yeah, I had that too once. And then I went for medical checkup. Then the doctor looked at me and I was like, "Eh, how come your BMI so high?"
Yeah.
Then I said, "It's called muscle, dude."
Okay, interesting question by Linda. How do you stay motivated in your early days? Tips for beginners.
Okay, I'll go first. Then, yeah, you can add on. So for me, I made the mistake of actually buying Men's Health, subscribing to Men's Health for a year, just following all the workouts there. That was like first mistake. And then I'll bring my friends to the gyms, and I'll tell them, like, I had no clue, right? I was just following a magazine, but I acted like I was, very pro and stuff like that. And I was telling them, "Oh, you should do this, feel your chest and stuff like that." And at the time, I had no chest and whatever. So, but it was motivating because I was making progress, right? And I think it's very easy to make progress at the start. It's just more of I didn't have the correct guidance. So I started to lose motivation when I didn't see progress, and then that's when I knew I needed to get some guidance. I actually went for personal training first, and once I took up personal training, under trainers, asked a lot of questions, or I doubted a lot of things, like why does this work? How does this work? And they didn't know how to answer me. So from then on, I wanted to know, and it felt good being helped. And then from there, I just wanted to help people. Yeah.
Agree. I think it's very important to learn from people who are professional. For me, like at the start, I also just listen to friends and do stuff, and I didn't really see progression, and I just wondered if it's because I didn't put enough effort or what. But when I did research myself, I realized that I'm doing some things wrongly, and I should adjust it. And of course, I took all this research from people well known in the fitness industry, people who have been gymming for years, coaching 10,000s of people and producing results. And of course, whatever they say are all cross-referenced to scientific papers, research that are done. So these are just not plucked up from the sky and tested on random people, but they are legit stuff. So I followed the legit stuff, and of course, I guess what always keeps people motivated is results, right? So I've slowly seen results over the year, over the weeks, over the months, and I realized, okay, I'm doing this right. And I mean, if you see results, you're going to just get more addicted to it, right? And yeah, more and more and more and more. That's how I got motivated. And once you reach, I'm sure that once you reach that point in time, right, you don't need to be afraid of losing motivation anymore, because you just feel so motivated all the time to maintain that body, and everything just comes second nature to you. It becomes a habit, no longer something that you have to actively think of. Like sometimes when I stop working out, I'll just feel something's not right, and I'll just start working out again. I mean, it just becomes a habit all the time. Yeah.
Oh wow, there's actually a time limit for this. Do you see that at the top?
No, I don't. Is it ending soon?
Okay, there's 1 minute, 48 seconds. Okay. Linda also asked about tips for beginners. So I would just say pick something you like to do. Track your food. You know, just don't even count calories. Just maybe take a food journal. Just track your food so you be more conscious of what you're eating. Have fun. Don't stress out about that. Do you want to answer my sister's question real quick?
Should I reduce it or drink the same amount if I want to keep fit? You can reduce it. You can drink the same amount. It just depends if you are in a calorie deficit or not. So it is important to know whether you are, to have some data, at least like what JJ mentioned, to keep a food journal, maybe to take a weight, take measurements, take progress photos. If you find that you're gaining weight, obviously you should do something about your sugary drinks. If you really, really want to keep your sugary drinks and drink the same amount, then you have to cut something else. If not, maybe just cut once or twice a week. I'm not telling you to forgo it completely, right? You can just make progressive changes. It's all about sustainability and progression. Yeah.
Or you can just like fill up the soft drink to here and then fill up water here so it's diluted. Yeah. Okay, 30 seconds left. Thank you, Kati, for being on. It's been a good one. Thank you for all the questions. Any last few words? 20 seconds left.
No, just I think it's a very good session today. I hope people learn that building muscle at home is definitely possible, especially for beginners. So keep doing it. Don't give up. Consistency is the most important.
Okay. Great. Nice. Bye.
Thank you.